These last couple of weeks I've been offering some reflections that have used the parable of the Good Samaritan as a starting point. Probably a majority of us in this room know that story pretty well. Most people who have been regular churchgoers for any period of their life probably do. I think there are probably quite a few people in our culture who actually don't. I'm not going to read the story all the way through right now in its original form, but for any of you who may not be familiar with the parable of the Good Samaritan, it's a story of a man who is out traveling and is beset by a group of people who rob him, beat him severely. He's left in a heap on the side of the road, possibly to die. And then three people pass by in sequence. And the first two people that pass by they're members of his own nation, as we would call it today. They're members of his own ethnic group, as we would call it today. The language back then, of course, would be a little different. And these first two people that pass by are also members of the same religion as the man who was beaten and robbed. And the person telling this story, who is Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, really, to make the point very clear, he mentions that these first two people that came by that were of the same religion as the man who had been beaten were both religious leaders of two different kinds. So those were the people that you would expect would, of course, stop and help a man who was possibly dying by the side of the road. But actually, that's not the way the story goes. Those two people do not stop and help. Not only do they not stop, but they actually go out of their way to go around on the other side of the road. But then a third passerby comes, and what the Nazarene storyteller tells us is that this third man that came by was not a member of the same nation of the man lying by the side of the road. He was not even a member of his same ethnic group. He was actually a member of a nation that was an enemy nation of the man lying there. And he was a member of a religion that was considered to be a renegade religion by the people of the man who was lying on the side of the road. And to top it off, he was not a religious leader. But he stopped. The usual translation is that he was moved with pity. Probably not a very good translation. Probably would be closer to say that he was moved in his heart. He was moved with compassion and went and helped that man, and not only helped him some, but helped him with really extravagant generosity. Put him on his animal, brought him to an inn, gave a lot of money to the innkeeper, and said, "I'll be back, and whatever your expenses are for this man, I'll pay them." And so what a lovely story that is, and one of the greatest stories really that's ever been told, and one of the greatest resources, I think, that the human race has. Now, I'm not going to give the sermon that I have prepared for today, and that material can happen in one of these coming weeks. I just want to share a couple of quick thoughts. One is that I really do believe that story is one of the greatest resources that the human race has. I think that it encapsulates something really, really major that's at the heart of all religion and all spirituality. obviously compassion, and also the fact that we're all connected. And if somebody's lying in a heap on the side of the road, what nation that person is from doesn't matter. What ethnic group that person is from doesn't matter. What religion that person belongs to or believes in doesn't matter. One of the observations that I have about this story is that even though it is one of the greatest resources that we have, there are a lot of people in our culture who don't really read stories like this. I was reading a book this week called Flourishing. One of the co-authors is Jonathan Haidt, who wrote another book recently that has been widely read and widely reviewed. And in the chapter that I was reading, the book is about what the title says. It's about how human beings can flourish, how human beings can have what in the New Testament is called abundant life. That's not the phrase that they're using in that book, but how human beings can be fully alive, and we human beings can be fully reaching our potential. So in this section that I was reading, the author said, for some background, let's go back and see what our tradition says about flourishing. So they started talking about what the Greeks said. And they said in ancient Greece, there was this concept of eudaimonia, was the word that they quoted. And eudaimonia basically means happiness or well-being. And then they quoted some other things from the Greeks. And then so they were setting up the points that they wanted to make by saying, these points that we want to make have precedent in our cultural tradition. And look, see what the Greeks said here, here, and here. And it struck me that they didn't quote the Nazarene. They didn't quote the Galilean, but they did quote several Greeks. Now, why is that? Why is that? Is that because those people writing that book really wouldn't value a story like the Good Samaritan? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that the reason they didn't quote anything from the Judeo-Christian tradition was because there aren't any resources in the Judeo-Christian that could have helped set the stage for their argument about human flourishing. I think this is a guess on my part. I didn't call any of the authors up and talk to them, but I've seen this happen over and over again, is that in many academic settings, the Greeks will get quoted all the time. Sometimes things from ancient Egypt will get quoted, or Cicero or Marcus Aurelius from the Romans. Those people will get quoted all the time. But Jesus of Nazareth won't get quoted. Why is that? Well, it's because people built a religion around him. It's because Jesus of Nazareth, what I'm about to say, I mean with all seriousness. I don't mean this lightly. But Jesus of Nazareth had the profound misfortune of having people create a religion around him. Oh my goodness. That was a very, very unfortunate event in many respects. Plato, people can still benefit from in our culture. Aristotle, Socrates, people can still benefit from in our culture. Homer, many people can still benefit. But a lot of people are losing the benefit of the really good material that is here because this religion got built around it, which has been so partisan. And that's really significant to notice, that religion in the institutional sense, in the organizational sense, in the historic sense, in the sense of trying to sustain an orthodoxy, religion in those senses has become a partisan thing. It's become a thing of, this is what we believe. You know, well, what do you believe? All right, maybe I'll listen to what you believe, but this is what we believe. I'm going to keep talking about what we believe. And man, that's not what Jesus of Nazareth was about, folks. Just isn't. That man had no interest in religion. I'm being serious. And this Good Samaritan story says it as clear as day. The guys that came back from the approved religion, they didn't rise to the occasion. The guy that came by from the disapproved religion, the heresy, the heretical religion, the bad religion, he rose to the occasion. And what the two guys who came first did and what the third guy did, it didn't have anything to do with religion. It had to do with the heart. So, I'm not suggesting that religion should be abolished, and I'm not suggesting that religion should stop to exist. I am only suggesting that all religions is a container. That's all. It's just a vehicle. It's like your car. And again, I really mean that very seriously. It's just something to travel in. And we need vehicles. I'm using the word now, yes, on both levels. We need vehicles. We need houses to sleep in at night. We need houses to seek the ultimate reality in together. Reading is good. Reading is very good. But it's just vehicles. So I want to close by trying to describe to you a 2.5-minute YouTube video that I saw this week. Somebody sent it to Nancy. Nancy sent it to me. And it's a dramatization of a story. This video, I believe, presents it as an actual event that happened in the Second World War and then after the Second World War. I obviously don't know for absolutely certain if the event happened, although it's presented as if it did. And in a way it doesn't matter because the story itself is valid. But it's about a man who was a prisoner of war, I believe in the Second World War, and the guards brutally beat him with the butt of a rifle and then kicking him while he was down, all up and down his body, and left him just as a writhing heap on the ground. And as he was lying there, the only thing he could muster was to say in a very soft voice a couple of times, "Help, help." And then there was a young woman who was sitting there also in this camp, who looked at him and heard him saying, "Help, help." Now, at the very beginning of this video, the old man who we see at the beginning had survived and who had had a great change in his life and had been able to reclaim his ability to live life in a good way, was being asked by a younger person now in present time. He, as an older man, now was being asked by a younger woman, "What was it that woman said to you that made a difference?" Okay, so that's what the video starts with. So now we have this man going back to the Second World War, lying in a heap on the ground, and we see the answer to her question. Her question at the beginning was, what did this woman say to you that enabled you to, after the war, get back on your feet and become a really loving and forgiving and compassionate person? And so we see in this dramatization how the young woman back in Second World War time hears him say, "Help, help, help." comes over, and simply takes his hand and looks him in the eye. And that's all she does. And then the guards come and take her and string her up with her hands above her head and start pummeling her and abusing her. And you see her vomiting. And then at the end, it says that this man's life was transformed not by anything that she said. She didn't say a word. All she did was she responded to his pain with compassion and just reached out to take his hand and paid a heavy price. And then this man, after the war, according to this story, went on to create a relief organization and was a man of great faith. No, not in any religion, but in life, in human beings, in the human race, and went out to bring great generosity to help people who were also victims of various form of misfortune. And I thought that video was so lovely because what was transformative was not any religion. And what was transformative did not involve any words. It involved only a response of the heart. And I would suggest to you that that's what the Good Samaritan story is saying. Doesn't have anything to do with Christianity or Judaism or Buddhism or Hinduism or go on Islam, Taoism, go on down the list. There are many people within Islam and Christianity and Hinduism who do respond from the heart, but it's not about the religion, and it's not about any religious figure. It's not about the Buddha. It's not about Jesus. It's not about Moses. It's about learning to live from the heart and in connection with the higher spirit. And so we're really fortunate to have a story like this. Really, really fortunate. And you know what I hope? I hope that within my lifetime, and I hope that's going to be for a while, I hope within my lifetime a lot of younger folks today who really don't want to have anything to do with Christianity can get back to the point where they might say, I want to go back and read some of these stories. What was that one about the Good Samaritan? That'll be a good day. And we ask, gracious Christ, that you would give us more and more of what we need to grow into what you have to teach us. And we ask this in your precious and wonderful name. Amen.